Hello, Doctor Who fans, and welcome to my review of the fifth Doctor Who story, The Keys of Marinus, starring William Hartnell as the first Doctor. So, The Keys of Marinus. The basic plot of The Keys of Marinus is that the TARDIS arrives on the planet Marinus on an island of glass surrounded by a sea of acid. The travellers are forced by the elderly Arbiton to retrieve 4 of the 5 operating keys to a machine called the Conscience of Marinus, of which he is the keeper. These have been hidden in different locations around the planet to prevent them falling into the hands of the evil Yartek and his Vord warriors, who plan to seize the machine and use its originally benevolent mind-influencing power for their own sinister purposes. And that is essentially your plot of The Keys of Marinus. Well, The Keys of Marinus. I have to say, this is thankfully a massive improvement over Marco Polo. I mean, don't get me wrong, Marco Polo, it has some entertaining moments, and I know obviously that most of it is lost. And obviously I watched the 7-part reconstruction, but for me that story was just so slow and just too dull for me. I couldn't get into it. So it's nice to know that this story is much betterly paced. The greatest thing about The Keys of Marinus for me is that it's just a ton of fun. It is. It's just a hell of a lot of fun. You can just sit back and enjoy the ride for the most part. I really like the story. I think the story's really, well, it's not essentially too inventive. It's quite basic, but I think it's fun. It's a fun romp. It's a really fun story. I also like the build-up of this story, like the first 2 parts, with them going through and then they discover this kind of paradise world, and then, you know, the major sort of theme with this is obviously the idea of the hypnosis, and Arbiton's obviously somebody who doesn't agree with that. He wants there to bring back the keys so that he can basically stop Yartek from creating a world that is run essentially by him, where he can use machines to do his work. We get a glimpse of that in the first couple of parts, where we see the people and the servants serving, but they're under like this hypnosis, and there's this brain room as well, which is very interesting, which Barbara actually destroys, funnily enough, as well. And this story is very much an adventure quest kind of story. They have to travel to different locations to get these keys, which makes it a hell of a lot of fun. And there's a bigger group this time. You have the Doctor, obviously, played by William Hartnell, Susan, Ian, and Barbara. They are the 4 main characters. They're still here. You have 2 supporting characters as well, Altos and Sabitha. They come along for the ride as well. They are originally like guards / servants who work for the people in the brain room, but then they decide to join them, which I think is fair enough, and they develop a nice chemistry as well. And as I said, this story is a lot of fun. They hopping between different locations, creates a great amount of sense of fun, and the characters here are great. I think this is a great story, and it's such a nice change of pace from Marco Polo for me. And the idea of, you know, this machine, the Conscience of Marinus, is I thought was quite an interesting concept, and, you know, again, simple, but it works. And yeah, also Arbiton as well. He's another character that I have to talk about. He's sadly not in the story that much. He's kind of wasted, really. If I had to make any criticisms about this story, it would be that Arbiton is, well, wasted. He's in the first part for a few scenes, and then he dies. One of the Vords kills him off. I have to say the villains are really good too. Not so much Yartek. I don't think he's particularly good. He doesn't come in until like the last parts, and it's a 6-part story, so yeah, it would have been better for him to come in earlier. Or at least to my knowledge, that's when I first saw him coming in. The Vords themselves, they look really cool. I love the kind of the sort of big armory type facial mask things, if you know what I mean. They look really creepy, and they are really sinister, the way they can just come up behind you and, you know, knife you like that. This story, you know, has its suspenseful moments. Like, and they go to various locations. Like, I think the first location is obviously the sort of the Roman kind of looking paradise place. Then they go to the jungle, which is a sort of really dark and sinister jungle. That was interesting. And then they go to like the snowy mountains where they meet Varos, I think his name is, who's the sort of the wilderness, sort of the big wilderness guy, who's like this hunter, and he's basically a dick, and he leads them into a trap. Well, he leads them to the mountains, and then he loosens the bridge so they can't get back across. He's a slime ball, and it's a shame that he essentially didn't really get his comeuppance. I mean, he kind of did, but then they never caught him in the end. But oh well, it's just one of those things. And I love the pace of this story. It just moves, like, it's 6 parts, but it moves pretty damn quickly. However, if I had to make one major problem for this story, which is kind of what brings it down a little bit for me, is the last 2 parts. I do feel that parts 5 and 6 aren't as good as the earlier 4 parts, which is a shame because I really was enjoying the story. I mean, as soon as they do the whole murder trial aspect of the plot, the story just slows down a little bit. Not to the extent of Marco Polo, but it's, I mean, there's stuff happening, but you're just like, come on, what happened to the sort of quest story? You know, I thought they spent way too long in the whole murder mystery thing. They could have just avoided that and gone in a completely different direction. You know, maybe have Chesterton get captured instead and try and rescue Ian Chesterton. I just think the whole murder trial thing was kind of... It feels like it was taken from another story and placed in this one just to pad this story out a little bit. Which, I mean, it didn't bother me too much, but I just think it slowed the story down. I just thought, okay, we need to get to finding these blooming keys. You know, we need to get on with the story. It didn't advance the story for me. It took it back a peg. I mean, all of episode 5, all of part 5 was the whole murder trial thing. And I thought they're not moving as fast as they were before. Like, I understand, obviously there was a lot of momentum in the first 4 parts, and they probably felt like they needed to slow down a bit. But you didn't need to slow down to that extent, you know. Maybe they should have just had Chesterton imprisoned and captured, because it feels like it does almost feel like another story. Luckily, part 6 doesn't do it as much. At the sort of towards the first act, we find out the whole mystery thing, even though it wasn't much of a mystery. And then they move to the climax. Now, I also feel that this is another weak point. They build up the climax quite a lot by having Sabitha and Altos captured. But then the climax doesn't really go anywhere. I feel there was a massively missed opportunity here by not having the Doctor confront Yartek. It didn't, like, come on, you know, this is the guy who's trying to destroy the planet, you know, and the Doctor doesn't even confront him. You know, Altus and Sabitha do, and he threatens both of them, which was a good scene. I thought, okay, the Doctor's going to come in at some point and... Shut up. Bloody Van's driving past. I thought the Doctor was going to come in at some point and, you know, free them and confront Yartek, you know. It was clever, obviously, that Chesterton gave him the fake key and stuff. But, you know, there needed to be a confrontation there. Like, there needed to be the main group, or at least the Doctor, confronting Yartek, and then, boom, place blows up. It just feels a bit like... It feels a little anticlimactic with the base sort of blowing up at the end. without much of a confrontation. It just it was very abrupt, is what I'm trying to say. Is that I feel the climax was just abrupt. It was almost anticlimactic, really. But other than that, I really like this story. I think it's great fun. I enjoy the characters. It's a bit more. It's less. It tries to be less epic, which I think is good, and more fun. And I think that's what I can appreciate, because Marco Polo, even though it was a reconstruction, so it was kind of difficult to judge it, you could tell that from the pictures that they tried so hard to make it epic and, you know, film standard, almost like film-like, you know, with the whole idea of going to Tibet and China, and which was interesting, but way too long and too slow. There's a lot happening in this story, which is good, so they keep the momentum moving. And I really like the scene when Barbara destroys the brains as well. And there's a lot of scenes to do with hypnosis and stuff, and I really like that as well. That was a good idea that they threw into the mix, like when Barbara wakes up and she sees the room all destroyed and Susan's dress all tatty when the others don't see it. So that's very interesting. So the way they build up to this is all very intriguing. So they play with tension really well. And Terry Nation wrote the story. He does a good job for the most part. It's just the last two parts that I'm a little bit miffy about, which is just a shame, because it would have been nice for the climax. It doesn't feel satisfying for me, but the first four parts are really good and very entertaining. You really see Ian and Barbara shine in this one. Like, the Doctor takes a bit of a back seat. He's not actually in parts 3 and 4, which is surprising. I didn't expect that. I mean, it works. It works for this story, because there's 6 parts, and they focus on Ian and Barbara for parts 3 and 4, and obviously Altus and Sabitha, which I thought was really clever, you know. And I think part 4 was probably one of my favourites, when they meet Varos and they're in the snowy mountains. You know, and yeah, there's just a lot of tension there as well. And also I like the scene when they go into the mountains and they're trying to get these fucking keys. And there's also tension as well when they get to this whole murder mystery plot. When I think the guy's name's Aidan, his wife, is it Carla? I think her name's Carla. Let me just check the cast list for that. Yeah, Carla. When she captures Susan, that's also very good. Again, it's just the whole murder mystery thing, like going from the big sort of quest storyline to just sort of stopping, you know, this whole murder trial thing. It just comes out of nowhere for me, and it would have been a lot smoother just to have them go quest all the way through to the end, just to get the keys. You know, it's like, why are we stopping to investigate a murder? Why don't we just go and get the blooming keys? Why can't they just escape like they normally do? They can just get away. They can just escape. Use their time. Well, I can't remember what they're called. Time dialer things, or travel dialers. Yeah, that's it. Travel dialers. When they use their travel dialers, they could just use that. So, and the missed opportunity at the end with not having the Doctor confront Yartek. That was a shame. But I do like the Vords very much. They're very scary. They're very creepy. I wonder if they'll bring them back one day for the new series. That'd be nice. That'd be nice. Overall, I don't have much to say. I think the direction's very good as well. The production design is fantastic. I particularly love the Roman paradise that they've got, and then also the jungle is good, and the jungle becomes almost an interesting character with the way it tries to grab Susan. It's almost like this death-defying trap, booby trap that they enter into when Susan nearly gets grabbed by the vines, and then the jungle starts attacking them at the end when they're trying to get the key out of the jar in the combination, you know. And also, when that guy died, Darius, I think his name was, the old guy, why didn't he tell them the chemical combination if it was in the jar in the same room? Why didn't he just point to the jar and say, there it is, quickly, like, and why was he in it? He just died. He was on screen for 2 minutes. Like, again, a missed opportunity. Why didn't you have him there for longer, or at least have him, have him on screen for a longer amount of time. He was there for 2 minutes, and then he got strangled by the jungle, and then he died. Again, a wasted character and a missed opportunity. But yeah, I mean, it's not perfect, but I have to say, it's a ton of fun. Other than 5 and 6, they're a little bit meh. Like, overall, it's a really great story, and it's very fun and entertaining. It's light and breezy, even though it's kind of long. It's 6 parts, but it doesn't feel too long, which is good. And the Doctor not being in 2 of the episodes was interesting. That's the first time they've done that. But it worked. It worked really well. And yes, for all the guys out there, Sabitha was very attractive. I thought she was anyway. I couldn't really turn my eyes off her when she was on screen. Very beautiful girl. Beautiful actress too. Very, very good. You see her really tested when Alta's about to die. I like at the end there's a hint of chemistry between them, that they are potentially going to be lovers, which is nice. But yeah, it would have been nice to have Arbiton there, or at least have him come back in the last part and then have him die there in front of her. That would have been great, actually. Instead of killing him off in part 1, killing him off in part 6 would have been better, because you could have had him there in that scene with her and Alto when he's about to kill when Yartek's about to kill Alto. He could kill her father then, right in front of her. That would have been very sinister. I suppose I didn't want to make it too dark, but that's just how I would do it. Anyway, so I am going to rate The Keys of Marinus a 9 out of 10. For all its problems, it has a lot going for it, and I would encourage you to, if you haven't seen it, to check it out. You might be entertained. It's very good. So, that's pretty much it for now, guys. Tune in next time when I review the Aztecs. Until then, thank you all for watching, and as always, I'm Mr. TARDIS11. See ya.